Love between humans is just not easy. And without great examples or education about emotions, communication, sex, and what keeps love alive, it's too easy to be disheartened, settle, or give up on what you want most. I believe you can have the love and intimacy you want. And having coached thousands of people on their love lives for over 20 years, I know what love can be for you. So I'm bringing you people who share vulnerably about their dating and relationship struggles and how they learn to create the most connected, fulfilling, and exciting love and sex of their lives, so you can have it too. If you haven't yet taken the quiz to see what keeps you from having the best love and sex of your life, go to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz. You'll get a personalized report of your strengths and challenges in the 5 crucial areas that lead to your most fulfilling and exciting love and sex life. Go to shanajamescoaching.com/quiz to find out. Hello, and welcome to this episode of Practicing Love. I'm your host, Shana James, and so happy to be here with you today. I am excited to talk about something that most people are not excited to think about or talk about, which is baggage. And whether you're dating or you're in a relationship, especially after 40, we all bring baggage to the table. And I think it's time to have a conversation about how to love our baggage, how to be kind to our baggage, what to do with other people's baggage, and how we can consciously approach this topic as opposed to just either pushing someone away, right? Saying like, I don't want to be with anyone who has any baggage, because I think that's pretty impossible these days, or being defensive or judgmental or any of those things that keeps our hearts closed to people. So I have an amazing guest today, Karen Bigman. She is a relationship and intimacy coach for men. And I'm so happy to have you here today.
Thanks for having me.
What's your sense of what baggage actually is to you? And what have you seen recently with your clients? And I know you're dating as well.
Yeah, so I like to think of baggage as different levels. There's the purse, there's the carry-on suitcase, and there's the stuff that goes under the plane.
Oh my God,
and then there's the stuff is like in special compartment, and you need to pick it up later.
Yeah.
So I came up with that analogy a little while ago, and I'm like, I think it works really well. And then there's my baggage and your baggage. So when you're dating, there is no such thing as no baggage. You've lived a life of 40, 50, 60 years. There's bound to be things that you have in your life.
Yeah.
The question is, one, what is it and how much will it interfere with your relationship? And then 2, how does the other person feel about it and how can they interact with it? And I'm sure there's 3, 4, and 5 too, but I'll just go with that.
Keep it simple for now. Yeah.
And it's depends. I mean, I've been in places, relationships where they're really, kids were fine. Life was okay. The person was not personality wise for me. Yeah. And then I've been in a long-term relationship where there were serious mental health issues, major baggage, and how we dealt with that. So I was at a point in my life when I had that I don't think I really thought too hard about it. But what that taught me in that relationship was that moving forward, if somebody has a child with mental health issues, I don't know if you want to call that baggage, although in the context of this, that is something that I have to decide whether I can carry.
And it's a serious conversation, right? About how it is impacting that person's life and how it would impact your life and what supports are in place and all those things.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, how we get from, just flippantly naming something baggage, kind of like you're saying, to actually looking at, all right, what's the real human component or experience here?
Right. And knowing yourself well enough to know what you can and can't deal with, because I think some things you can cope with and other things are just not your job to take on.
Yeah.
And then there's the little things like, it's not so little, but if someone has a young child and there's joint custody, like for me, that is baggage I do not want.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, I'm 62 years old.
Well, that's what I have, so I can totally understand why you would want to do that.
It sounds like your partner's okay with it because you've been with someone for a while, right?
I know. I was like, are you sure you want to move in and redo this? Because he's got older kids. I'm like, you really want to do this again?
Yeah. I am like, that is boundary. No, no, won't do it. Won't do it.
Yeah.
Because I know I want to pick up and go. I
Yeah.
want flexibility.
That clarity is honoring yourself and honoring whoever you would get into relationship with. And it doesn't mean that you're judging anybody else as wrong or bad. It's just, it's not the situation that you want, which is very important to have that clarity.
Yes, yes. And that's really, I think, what it comes down to. And it's dealing with whatever you have needed to process in your own life. And
Yeah.
whether it is the fact that you have a child with mental health issues, whether it is a financial strain, whether it is a child that is, in grade school or high school, how are you okay with that? Can you show up in a relationship as a person who can deal with that as either separate or in a way that makes sense for the other person?
Right. And deal with that without resentment and without, frustration. I mean, there's always frustration in life, but a big sense of like, oh, woe is me. And why am I doing this?
Yeah. And I think sometimes we don't know what we don't know. I just heard a story. Someone was telling me that her son didn't talk to her for many, many years. And she had this like wonderful boyfriend. Everything was great. And he showed up back in her life. And it was hugely, hugely emotional for her because there was a very alienation on the part of the father and on and on. And she really like was dealing with this major, I guess, traumatic event. And the boyfriend basically said, I can't cope with this. I'm out. He didn't want to hear about it. And so maybe she didn't know that was going to happen. And so it wasn't something that they ever discussed. But when it came down to it, he was like, this is not my cup of tea. And like, you do you and I'm out. So,
Wow.
you
That can be really painful too.
yeah. But it shows who the person is. And I guess with respect to him, he knew he couldn't be there for her.
Right. Right. Better to know sooner rather than later.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got these different kinds of baggage, the purse, the carry-on, the overhead, the underneath. What else feels important as people are listening through this? Okay, it's not that people don't have baggage. There's some more nuance here. What do you help people understand?
You want to understand where the person's coming from. Like, for instance, if your partner has an overbearing mother, is that okay with you? Maybe you had an overbearing mother and no way, but maybe you weren't really mothered and it's kind of nice to have an overbearing mother, but no, you're getting in a relationship with your partner and their mother. So helping people see beyond I think this person's really hot, sex is great, this is wonderful. Can we build a life together? Or can we build a long-term relationship? It's a lot more than just saying, oh yeah, I can deal with that. So
that just opened up so many thoughts because I mean, A, you're getting into a relationship with their overbearing mother. B, you're getting into a relationship with a person who has been mothered by an overbearing mother, right? And what does that mean about how they then have learned that relationships go and who they want you to be, and having those conscious conversations about the patterns and the ways of relating, right? Versus just, oh, this person is hot, like you said, or this person, is exciting, or even I love this person. I mean, I had many relationships after my divorce where there was a lot of love, but I could tell that either our personality types were not a fit, or we didn't want the same things in life, or there was like incompatible baggage, let's say.
yeah, and sometimes it doesn't show up, or you're not aware because you haven't seen it before. In my most recent 4 to 6 month relationship, he had just separated from his wife of 29 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it started out kind of cute. He'd call me for dating advice, and then we fell for each other, and we had a great time together. And then his ex-wife started trying to alienate his kids, and that just brought like a whole nother level to the relationship. And at the time I was working with people who were going through divorce, and I'm like, oh, I can totally handle this. I can totally handle this. And he was just a mess.
Yeah.
And so he ended up breaking up with me. I think I was hanging on, so clutching to him to try to say, I can do this, I can do this. And I really couldn't. And so it was really, again, one of those things where you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah. I never wanted to make any hard, fast rules, but the first year or two going through a separation or divorce is very topsy-turvy. And I always like to clarify, and I don't know what your sense of this is in dating, but that you can date someone, or you can have sex with someone, you can have romance and play, or someone who's a friend with benefits or whatever. That's fine. It's more, again, about the clarity of who is this person and what are we both capable of, or what is a fit, between us, versus everybody has to be in that partnership category.
Right. And it can evolve. A close friend of mine just moved down here, and she had been in a 7 or 8 year relationship with someone with severe mental health issues. And she's like, I haven't been alone most of my life. I don't want to date anyone. She went on the apps just to kind of meet people. She ended up meeting this guy who was also going through divorce. They're like, this is perfect. This is perfect. A year plus later, they're boyfriend and girlfriend. They knew themselves and they evolved together, and now it's working, and they don't live together, but they have their own lives. And so that was a kind of an example of the opposite. But I think going in, knowing that you don't know what you don't know, but more importantly, knowing what you do know about yourself. Like, I know I can't be with someone who is not flexible to be with me when I need them. I know that I need somebody to check in with me every day. I'm an anxious attacher. I don't like the rejection. So I know that about myself, and I'm very aware. And as a relationship develops, it's something that I say, this is what I need from you. I don't need you to be with me 24/7. I don't need you to contact me, but I need to know that you're thinking of me a little bit each day. Yeah. And that's one of my things.
Yeah. And to me, what I'm hearing is that you consciously communicate that instead of having this big reaction or getting super emotional about it. You're consciously knowing your needs and wants, and then you're communicating them, which goes over much better than the other way.
Right. And I think that's what we learn. Well, obviously, as coaches, we've mastered that a little bit, but I think that is very much what I try to help people understand is, to know thyself.
Yeah. Know thyself, and then be able to communicate about thyself.
Yes. And I talk about that also a lot. I did a reel recently about, should you sleep with them on the first date, and can it lead to long-term relationship? And my point is, I don't think there's a right or wrong. It's what's right or wrong for you. As long as everything's safe and consensual, then do whatever you do you. But know that if you're someone like me and you sleep with them on the first date and they don't call again, I know that's going to freak me out. Yeah. So I won't do that. But for someone else, and they're like, okay, we had a great night, and if I never see them again, I'm okay, then go for it.
Yes. So important to not have this blanket sense of, okay, here's the rule,
right?
But actually know yourself and know, oh, I couldn't handle that, or I don't want to handle that. Or, oh, I know that when I have sex with someone, I start to get lost in that chemistry and dopamine hits and all of that. And then I start to see through these like googly eyes that, this person is my soulmate versus.
There you go. I've named the dog.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
okay. So, what else did you say in your reel about sleeping with someone on the first date, beyond the rules?
Right. I think it depends also, like, what you consider sex. So as a sex educator, that's a really big deal, especially for people in midlife, because when you're young, we know one sort of sex. It's intercourse or penis and vagina for heterosexual couples. And that's pretty much it. And as we age, sex can be many things. And so when you determine what sex is, what intimacy is with somebody, there could be different levels that are okay for you, and there could be others that aren't. I have my one rule that I have is nothing comes off below the waist until there's STI testing. That is a rule. That is not even a boundary. It's a rule.
Great.
Full on STI testing. And if that's your rule, then that's your rule. But if you're like, I'm okay with that as long as there's condoms and we practice safely, or we don't have intercourse, or we do other things, then my definition of sex is that.
Yes.
And it's okay. That's okay.
Yes. I love that. In Honest Sex, I wrote about, a new definition of sex, because those of us who have been coaches or, tantric practitioners, all those things, it's like sex takes on a whole new realm when you realize that it can be energetic and emotional and spiritual, and not just this physical act and not just genitals. Right. And I think that can be so freeing for so many people to realize that. And, it gives a lot more room to play in some ways at the beginning of when people are dating, but it can also get confusing, right? If one person has a different definition of, well, we've been sexual, the other person is like, well, I don't consider that sex, right? That can become an issue too.
Right. I think also there's a lot of learning to like being able to communicate better because we're older and really learning to do that. And I think as coaches, that's probably the thing we can do best for our clients.
Yeah.
Men are suffering ED. Like I went on a date with, or I dated a couple of dates with this guy. And I remember, we got into bed and he's like, he doesn't work that well. I'm like, okay, well, you come to the right place. Like I
Yeah.
could totally get that. But that was a thing. And I have my issues with, menopausal body. And so I think that's also something that if you slow it down, you have time to get to know each other well enough to be able to say, okay, this is what I like in the bedroom. This is what works for me. I need a pillow under my butt because my back is killing me. What, you know? And I think that's another thing that especially heterosexual people, we don't ever have those conversations. I mean, in the work
No.
that I've done in the last 3 years, I've learned how people who are in what they call the lifestyle, who practice differently, whether it's BDSM or swinging or whatever, or people who are the same gender, it's a different way of showing up in the bedroom. And there's a
It really
conversation
is.
that has to be had ahead of time where
Yes.
we don't do that. We like,
There's no assumptions.
yep. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
learning to do that we should be doing that.
Yes. Yes. And I just want to put a plug for how much intimacy gets created. I mean, when my current partner and I started dating, he was going through some pelvic pain and I started having UTIs because I was going through perimenopause and all these things. Um, And the way that we were so loving with each other and like kind of like you, I came to the situation like, okay, well, sex is so much more to me than, just the genitals. So we can play around in so many ways. And that was more new to him. But the way we both felt loved and supported by each other instead of someone just balking or being like, oh, well, if that's not going to happen, I can't be with you. It just created such a foundation of love and support for our relationship. And I think oftentimes it can seem like, oh, well, that's baggage, right? I mean, I've had pelvic pain for 20 something years and I manage it. But someone might look at that and be like, well, that's baggage versus, oh, that is something that we can co-create with and we could create intimacy around that as opposed to it just has to be something that gets in the way.
Right. And then it becomes a purse where it might have been a suitcase, right? Because then it's just like, we know we're going to have to deal with this. And it's just something that we just deal with and it doesn't stop the relationship or it doesn't get in between us,
Yeah.
figuratively.
Yes. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Amazing. What are some of the other things that you talk about or support clients with as they're questioning, is this a kind of baggage I'm okay with? Or what do I do with my own baggage? Maybe that's where we go is what do I do with my own baggage? How do I talk about, my history, my experiences, my habits, things that have gotten in the way in past relationships?
One of the best pieces of advice I think I got was when you're dating, not so much the checklist, but how does that person make you feel?
Yes.
When you're with them on a date, do you feel heard? Do you laugh? Does it feel easy? I mean, this last date I went on, this guy was just on and like down to his friggin' mortgage. And I'm like, I don't care how much money you have. Like, you pay your bills good. That's really, and he had to drop all these things. And I'm just like literally rolling my eyes in my head going, will he ask me something about me?
Oh, so painful.
It's terrible. Or the guy that was just like so nasty about her. I'm thinking, what will he be saying about me?
Totally. That's what I wanted to say about that one too, which is like if you're so wrapped up in that past dynamic and like you said, even if it's horrible, how you speak about your ex is how the person you're on a date with is going to imagine that someday you're going to speak about them. And it really shows. It shows your level of consciousness and maturity, how you relate to and whether you have compassion for or whether you're just shitting on the person that you used to be in a relationship with.
And I have learned this in friendships and in romantic relationships. There are two sides to every story, especially having been a divorce coach and having heard some of the most horrible stories. But the deeper you go, the more you see. You may not have been the abusive one, but you were no angel either. It's like there's always some part, and it's facing up to it. I mean, denial delusion. I mean, that was one of the challenges with my last long relationship, is he was kind of delusional about his role in things. And we're all responsible. Even if shitty things happen to us, there is a part of us that is responsible for ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I always ask when people come to me, I often have them fill out a worksheet in the beginning when we start talking of what were you not satisfied with? And then the second column is what was your role in that dynamic? Because, right, even if we were not the one who was louder or, the more negative side of that pole, right? There's always a way that we're contributing to that dynamic. And I often think Seinfeld, George's parents,
Uh-huh.
so my parents have that kind of dynamic. And for such a long time, I often thought, oh, well, my mom is the whole problem because she's the one who's, a little more aggressive. And then realizing if you let someone treat you that way and it becomes a habit, that's also part of it.
Right. And some couple are good that way. Actually, the bickering, like my daughter and her husband, I didn't realize that this is the dynamic that, even because they got married last year, and at the wedding, someone mentioned about like how like any other couple we'd think they were going to break up, but they don't yell at each other, but they have this like way of bickering that just works for them. Like,
really,
it really does. It's cute.
So
it's actually
cute.
kind of cute when you know that they're doing it in a loving way.
Yes. Right. If they're conscious of it and they're doing it in a loving way, that's so different than this is us just
unhappy.
Unhappy. Yes.
Passive aggressive.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what else do people need to know about talking about their own history, their own past dynamics?
Yeah, read the room. And that's hard. Being in sexual wellness business, I have no problem talking about sex. And there are moments where I too get shy. I'm human. But when it comes to like initial conversations, I can talk to anybody about anything. I'm very open-minded, and I guess I have that gift of gab. But not everybody is so open-minded. And we forget, because we spend a lot of time in our field, we're talking to others who do what we do. And so talking about vaginas and blowjobs and erections is like no big deal, but like someone else, it might be completely mortifying. At the same time, for me, I remember I've dated a couple of different guys where when I talk about my work, and I don't just talk about sex, but when I talk about my work, they change the subject.
Mm.
And for me, that's a sign that they're not comfortable with it.
Yes.
And it's hard because I'm not going to change what I do, but it does make many people uncomfortable. And I don't want to be with someone who can't talk to me about my work.
Yeah. I had a relationship end because of that. I had a podcast called Man Alive in the past, and it was mostly for men and geared around relationships and sex. And he was like, well, what if my son finds your podcast? And that is a huge red flag. Because to me, I was like, I hope your son finds my podcast rather than all the other shit he's going to find out there.
Yeah.
But for him, it was this source of embarrassment and not really wanting to be known or seen for what I was doing in the world.
Right. And it's also them being willing and curious to understand. I had a friend of a friend staying with me a couple of months ago, and he came home one night, and I was in the kitchen and he couldn't see me, and he's like, is it okay? Is everything, can I come in? I'm like, why not? He goes, I don't know. I knew you were doing something. And I'm like, I'm not filming pornography. I'm talking about issues in midlife, like I'm not naked. There's clothes on all the time. Everybody's got clothes. You want that? Go to OnlyFans. That's not my department. But he had no idea. To him, it was just like anything to do with sex, It's
right.
Like,
anything to do with sex becomes taboo for some people, which that's another thing. It's like, okay, if part of your, what we're calling baggage here, is that you actually can't talk comfortably about sex, about your own body, about what you need, about what somebody else, gives them pleasure or takes away pleasure, that's going to interfere in your relationship.
It's going to interfere in your relationship. And it also shows, in a way, a closed-mindedness. So it may be something you're uncomfortable with, but you're open enough to to talk about it eventually.
Yeah.
And then it's incumbent upon someone like me to say, okay, like, don't go full all in. Like, let's start, I don't know, tantra class tomorrow, but let's get to know each other well enough where we feel comfortable enough to say, okay, let's go to tantra class together.
Yeah. So that's a beautiful self-knowing, right? If you have the consciousness to say to someone, I get a little awkward talking about sex in the beginning. Eventually, I'm right in there. Versus I can't even say that, right? That shows a different level of consciousness also.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, what else feels important about baggage on either side?
Financial issues.
Yeah.
That's a big one. And maybe because I've had the good fortune to not have struggles financially, it shocked me at how many people by midlife have not saved a penny
Yeah.
and have really not managed their finances. If you can't pay your bills or if you're hugely in debt, that is huge baggage, and
Yeah.
you can't expect someone else to pull you out of it. And I know this is sort of a cliche about a lot that women just want, the guy to save them financially. And it's hard. Divorce sucks. And a lot of times we get completely wiped out and we got to start over. And that is a terrible thing. But if you're in that situation, unless you're very upfront with somebody that I'm not in a great financial situation. If you want to date me, you got to know that I can't afford to go out for dinner every night or whatever.
Right. Right.
Then that's something you need to work on for yourself. And it's a really hard position to be in. I think the challenge with my ex-boyfriend was that he didn't want to hear about it. He didn't want to know. He kept thinking the next, big deal would be coming.
Yeah.
And there was nothing in the bank. So like understanding that, okay, I have two jobs, or I'm working towards building up some sort of nest egg that I no longer have.
Yeah.
That's very different than expecting somebody to take care of you financially and entering into relationships. So that is a very big one. And that goes for men and women.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are people who would choose that dynamic and they would say, if I'm financially stable, I don't need someone else to be, and that's fine and that's okay. But again, that has to be a conscious choice versus expecting that somebody's going to pick up the slack or save you.
Yeah. Brought me another one more, and that is flexibility.
Mm.
So back to the young kid or parent that you're taking care of,
Yeah.
or the job that you have, or whatever it is. It's very hard when your parent lives with you, or your parent is dying, God forbid, or something is happening in your life that is pulling you away. It may be baggage, but it may be baggage that you're okay dealing with, or it may
Right.
be baggage that say, deal with your family business first, and then come back to me when that is taken care of in a way that you can manage a relationship.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I think in all of these, like you're saying, for one person, it feels like a very heavy baggage. And for another person, it may feel like, oh, I can handle that.
Right.
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 And if we're not upfront about the situations and what's going on in our lives, then people aren't at choice about it, or you get months and months into a relationship. Some things won't show up until years into a relationship. I don't know if you know Robert Glover, but he's a therapist who does a lot of writing and work with men. He wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy. And I interviewed him years ago, and he was saying that he really doesn't suggest moving in with someone until about 3 years of being with them. And I had this moment where I was like, oh, that actually feels great, because that aligns with kind of how I've thought about life and dating, which is you really don't know someone until you've spent years together, or you experience a health challenge or a family challenge, or the honeymoon phase is over. People show up very differently at different times. And if you haven't had a conflict or you haven't had any of those things, you really don't know how someone's going to be with you or treat you.
Whatever.
Ideally, people walk away from this thinking not more the negative way of thinking about baggage, but just realizing that we're all human and that we all come to the table with past hurts and past dynamics and relationships. And that if we consciously address them, oftentimes we can be collaborative and we can co-create something really beautiful if they're not in our what would we want to call it, the no-go zone, right? Like for you, vegan might be in the no-go zone. And that if we're not talking about these things, if we feel so much shame or so much fear in talking about these things, then I think there's some work for us to do so that we can actually love ourselves, feel free to be ourselves with other people.
Exactly. And I think it all comes down to being at a place where you can communicate what you need, what you like, what you want, what you don't want.
Yeah.
And being ready to do that in relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. Where can people find more of you?
I have a podcast. It's called Taboo to Truth, Life and Sex After 50, and that is available wherever you get your podcasts. It's also on YouTube. My website is taboo-to-truth.com. And I have a couple of courses that I've released in the last year. One is an adult sex education. I call it Hotter, Wilder, Wiser.
Nice.
And then another one I just released last month called Men Meet Menopause. And that's for you and your partner who are going through the transition of menopause and how to show up as better partners for each other.
I love that. That's so important. And it's quite a ride for sure. It's not something any of us were educated about when we were younger.
Sadly.
Well, thank you so much. And I highly recommend checking out Karen's resources and classes. And I'm excited to be on your podcast too.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. I'm so glad you joined us for today's episode of Practicing Love. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and gained insight into yourself and your current and past relationships and inspiration for what's possible. If you like what you heard, I'd be so grateful for you to subscribe and write a quick review to help people find us. If you'd like more support in your love life, be sure to get your free copy of my best-selling book, Honest Sex, at shanajamescoaching.com/free. That's shanajamescoaching.com/free. And we'll see you next time.